Remember how I mentioned the Ranger team that went out there? Yeah, they didn't come back for a week. But here's the fun part. My buddy, Guido, he was part of MI, and he'd done work with CID. He comes up to my room, and he's hammering the door like a drunken monkey. He's like, oh, good, you're not naked. Well, I found out it makes people fuck off and go away. They're looking for someone to do a detail. They don't knock on my door because I'll answer the door naked with an erection. But I'm like, what's up? He's like, yeah, any good stuff? Instead of that trash Tucher beer. I'm like, yeah, I got some good stuff. He's like, and no American piss water. I'm like, fine, man, don't be a dick. So I pour him some whiskey. I'm like, what's up, man? He goes, so, you know the Ranger team that's missing? I'm like, yeah, aren't they like a week overdue? He's like, yeah. So they left their building. The CQ logged it. I was like, well, yeah, you log everything in this shithole. He goes, yeah, well, they came back in last night, 10 minutes after they logged out. I was like, okay, where they been for a week? He goes, no, it's better. They made them all sit down, and he called the MP, and he called CID. I'm in 108 anyway, so they send me over. So the CQ asked them, where were you? And they're like, we're just out in the fog, man. We're looking for whoever's fucking with the unit. And my buddy Arnie tells him, hey, how many of you are wearing digital watches? Half of them raise their hand. And he's like, you take off your watches and let me see them? And he noticed that some of these guys had been wearing the watch so long that clasp was rusty and broke when they went to take it off. He said, I wrote that shit down and I had photographs taken of the watches. He goes, check this, man. Well, number one, all their watches were about 10, 15 minutes off. Two, their dates matched the day they left. He's like, and the other thing is, can you imagine a snake eater going 8 or 9 days with no snake to eat? I'm like, no, not really. They just fucking stumbled back in begging for food. So where these guys went, anybody's guess. They just said they were wandering around the fog. The fog, I think it was 144th if like 2 winters had a directive that the CQ was not allowed to let people go out in the fog, and that all the doors had to be chain locked except for the front door where the CQ desk was. And when the fog rose up, the CQ was to be armed with flares, M16s, and 2 of them had to be with the M203s with flares. Something happened at 144th and nobody knows what. Fuck that place. That place was a hole. We had a dude get, honest to God, well, we were told he was eaten by wolves. Because there's no wolves in the Bavarian Alps. You can fucking suck my dick, there is too. Big, honking, dire wolves. There's also boars. I'm willing to bet those boars killed more than one motherfucker. And I'll bet that the wolves got more than one dude. Because for a while, there was this big white bitch. And she was huge. Maybe it's memory and time and distance. But I remember thinking, she's the size of a small fucking pony. And she would go up and she would sit in front of the doors. Up there, everybody had airlock doors. They were glass, so you could see through them. Well, this bitch would come up and stop at the base of everybody's walk and sit there in between the 2 lights and stare at the building. And once in a while, the big fucking black males would come out of the darkness and sit next to her and then leave. And it was always like, she is trying to figure out how to get in here. And the guys that were up in the towers guarding the motor pools would be like, there's something down there. Because can you imagine being up in a 30-foot fucking tower and you look down and the fog's like 10 feet below you, but you can see something moving down there? Is it the boars? Is it the CO? I got a buddy of mine that can show you the scars across his back. There were 3 scars total, and they were spaced about 2 inches wide, 2 or 3 inches apart, just inside his right shoulder, but down by his left hip, right above his butt cheek, they were all close together. And I think he got something like 320 stitches. You have no idea what did it. We always said it was the CO. CO got him. Spielflicken, the most feared post in Western Europe. It was full of crazy people, retards, drunks, and apparently werewolves.